All right, cool. So we need to do this, need to remove city. By the way, just another quick tip for as you're developing. If you have functionality that you haven't finished yet, or you're like, oh, I need to put a bookmark in there. There's other ways of doing it with like, you can put things in here for your debugger and they'll show up on the side of your screen where you just click on that as a breakpoint. I like to just honestly put to do in here and then I can just search to do and see anything that I need to do left, right? So this is really the search function. I'm sure you've seen me use this, but it's really good for debugging. If you're like, wait a second, did I use this variable in here? Where's that variable come from? Where are all the places that use it? You can do it this way. You can also do like capital check, right? So if this is a lowercase, if this were to do like this, then no longer shows because it needs to be capital to do that. You can use regex if you're truly insane. Actually, regex works pretty well here. And you can do find and replace, or this is another really nifty one. Like let's say I'm looking for view, right? And this obviously is going to be absolutely absurd because everything that React makes or Vue makes has Vue in it, and then finally at the bottom it has my files. Well, a cool thing you can do is you can exclude anything in node modules, and this should get rid of a bunch of stuff. And also, I think get rid of actually package.json or just package dash. What is this? What's this called? Oh, package lock. Okay, there we go. So just go back here, package lock.json. That should get rid of a whole bunch of stuff. So now it's just the regular package.json, which is those things, and the README, and then my imports too are going to have that. But that again just takes an awful lot of this out. And you could also just put like things in the source folder, and so that's just going to be these where my actual code is. So that's pretty nifty. That's a pretty just cool trick that you can use. And I'm going to get rid of all of those because otherwise this is not going to work for the rest of the day. And get rid of that too. But that's just a nifty trick with your to-dos and like putting bookmarks in your code to say, oh, I need to finish doing this, or later I want to add this to that, or that kind of thing. Just kind of stuff that we can do as we go. So I will just probably leave that in there, and then if I forget to do this, then I can just say, what did I forget to do? And then we're good to go. So that being said, we have a few more files to create, including a city list that imports a city. So what we're going to do is, goodness gracious, this is just a lot of stuff. It's not very hard stuff, but it's just a lot of stuff. So let's see what all we got here. We've got some city.coords. Coordinates. How cool is that? We're going to look at some coordinates. All right, I'm just trying to figure out real quick which one we're going to do next. We'll go ahead. We'll just start making things and kind of see how this goes. We might have to make them kind of in tandem. We're going to do city.view, and then we're also going to have, this will just be vbase-3-css. Great. No. Let's do this one. That's fine. Go away. Really, I should have done the other one, but that's fine. All right, and then we can have one more. That's going to be our city list. .view. And vbase, and we're just going to do setup there. That's what I actually meant to do. Cool. So we've got this. Nice. Neato. And our city list is going to be the first one that we actually make, and we actually can go to our city page, and rather than oh no, that's actually supposed to be right. I think our async city is what uses our city list ultimately. Maybe not. Nope. Our dashboard uses our city list. That's where this lives. So we can go to our dashboard and update that real quick. So after our template and our UL and our div, right before main, we have one more div that we're going to put in here. So we're going to have div.flex.flexcall.gap-4, and there we go. And we're going to put in the suspense here too. Oh, I want you to actually make it a component. Why are you so mean to me? And then this is where we're going to actually put in our city list. That will self-close. And we're going to have a template, fallback. And if that doesn't work, no, then we're going to say loading. that's fine. And this is actually just a really nifty trick here, the suspense thing, where anytime that you have an asynchronous thing where it's going to have to check someplace else and bring back data, that city list here is going to be looking for our local storage. But anytime you're doing this, you can just use this suspense and put something in here. Like, again, we've looked at that. I think it was a spinner, something along those lines that I was showing in the React videos. Of course, references front end, and I think the semantic single element loading spinners. They literally have a spinner, this progress thing, right? So actually, let's just throw that in there. Let's just see if that actually works, and if I need to update my computer at all. And let's see. So when I go to my dashboard now, well, it's instantaneous now, but we're going to make this asynchronous in a second. So the city list thing is something we're going to have to be waiting for. And import city list, and just go to the view thing there, and that should be a nice component, so that'll be there. And let's see, go back to our city list. So now we're going to actually get some data and make some things slightly asynchronous. So now we've got this. Let's go ahead and start cruising through this process. So we're going to have div, and this div is going to be v4. And city in my cities, and this is already a problem because we haven't made this yet. The key is going to be city.id, and we're going to come back to all of this stuff, but again, I like having this stuff kind of established before I get too far. Class is going to be bg-slate-500, and then that's that, and then inside of this we're going to have a city component, city. And rather than doing that, I'm going to put city name there, just like that, and that should be fine. Because eventually we're going to have this city card, but we haven't done anything with it yet. So actually, we can just pipe this through city name, and this won't do anything. I think this should be set up. Double check here. Yep. This, we're not passing any props in yet, so that should be fine, but we're actually going to end up just taking the city there, and it will be all upset. Import city, like that, and then that should work there. And so we're looking at our city list. Where are we actually putting this in? We already established that that's going to be in the dashboard page, and for city in my cities. And what we'll just do here is we're just going to make a stupid const my cities equals ref. We need to import ref from view. Ref from view. There we go. And this should be an empty array. But we're going to start out with a default of Chicago and Fairbanks, just because we can. We should be able to come back here, and now we got these two things here. So if we run this again, it should be almost instantaneous because, again, we've got this there. So we're not going to see our spinner just yet because we're not actually pulling any data. But we got these two things. It just says city name twice. It's not a big deal. And eventually we're going to be able to do stuff with these, but we just wanted to have some dummy data up front to kind of mess around with that for right now. So that's a cool trick there. And from here, we're going to go ahead and keep kind of digging into this. So next we'll have import Axios from Axios, whoops. And then we're going to have import use router from view router. And so that should all be good. I think that's all the imports we actually need here. Yep. And then we're going to write some functions. So we got a const cities ref, which is currently just a couple of array items. Yeah. Ooh, we can actually finish the city.view thing first. That'll actually be nice and easy. We'll do that, and then that'll be the end of this video. So that's what we're going to do. We're actually going to want to eventually pass in our city list. We're going to want to do some bindings here. And again, this is how we pass props in. So city equals city. And again, that's going to pull from right here. So we have this list of my cities, and these cities right now is this array right here. For that array, we're going to find the cities, and we're going to pass the city in like that. And the other thing we're going to do is not going to add the add click thing. So we're going to add that as a to-do later. So we're going to say right here, we're going to do to-do, add view city button functionality. But right now, we're just passing this city in here. And how are we going to accept these things? Well, we've done this before, so we should be thinking, aha, we should define the props, because you have to do that in this language or in this framework. And that'll be correct. So we're going to do city. And what data type is city? This is going to be a type of object. It's really a string for us right now. And the default thing we're going to do is there's a callback attached to it. And we'll see actually if this works. But this should pull back. We'll just do city like this and see if that actually worked. I don't know if this will actually happen, but we got an error. Okay, so it says there's a subtree there, something wrong, and it's not pulling. Oh, there we go. There we go. Chicago and Fairbanks. Cool. So that actually did what we wanted it to, and that's all groovy. Expected an object and you got a string instead, which, yeah, so it's getting a type check failure. This is kind of entertaining because this is kind of a TypeScript thing to do this, and Vue is only warning us. It's not going to break. So if we wanted to really be strict about this, then we would have to be a little bit more detailed. But we can just say, string. Tell me this has to be capitalized in here. There we go. And this might still be grouchy, but we'll be fine. Nope, it's all good. Cool. So we'll come back and we'll fix that later. But for right now, that's what we wanted because, well, all that we're passing in here right now at present is this dummy data. Eventually, we're going to have more ornate things that we're going to pass in from Axios and use router and similar. But for right now, that's all that we're going to need to do. So let's go ahead and finish off our component here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to say we'll have class equals flex py-6 px-3 background secondary. That might be interesting. I might also change my mind and change that to gray. We'll see how this looks. Rounded-md, shadow-md, and cursor pointer. And then we should have our cities there. So let's see what this looks like. Yeah, I think that is terrible. Those are not good colors. And also, we managed to get here, whatever we were passing that into, that background slate color there. So if we just get rid of this, that gets rid of those little corners. And I'm really just not about that color scheme. It might look a little bit different. Yeah, that looks a lot better on my Mac than my main monitor here. So I think I am going to go, instead of using this with the background secondary, I will probably just go with the slate, and I think it was 500. A pretty dark color, but that looks actually pretty good to me. And when we click on it, nothing happens because we didn't tell it to, which is fine. So cool. Great. Keep it moving. So inside of this, rather than having our city here, we're going to have another div. So div.flex.flex_call.flex-1. And this should basically just make it a column that takes up the entire space it's given. Next line, this won't work until we finish the API, but we're already pretty close. So we're just going to have to finish until we pass the correct object from city list. So we'll have this, and we're going to have an h2 tag. It'll be text-3xl, and we'll do that. And we're going to have city, and we'll have that right now, but we're going to have to come back and fix that in a bit. But this should actually still be, oh, that's interesting. Where'd the h2 get goofed up? I might be passing this back up with that default thing, but we'll see. And then h3, and this will be, again, we'll have city here, but this will eventually say, yeah, there's something goofy happening presently, and we will get back to this later. This obviously won't work either because we're just giving it a string, but we're just going to go ahead and do this for now because later it will end up being correct. And yeah, that is obviously not rendering the way that we want it to. So we need to finish our functionality with what we're actually passing in and passing an actual object down the road. This shouldn't actually fix anything. It will probably just be mad. Yep, just be mad, and now we're not seeing anything at all, but that's okay. We're going to get done. We just got to keep cruising. So we're going to say div.flex call.gap-2. And inside of this one, we're going to have a p.text-3xl.self-end, and that will make sure that the text ends up at the end of the thing. And we're going to have math.round, and we're going to say city.weather.main.temp. Again, this is obviously not going to be working right now because we don't have any of those attributes of our city. So it will be, mad. And another div.flex.gap-2. And we'll have span.text-xs. And inside of this one, we'll have a hi. And this will be our math.round city.weather.main.temp_max and degrees. And then we'll have another span .text-xs, and this one will be the same thing, but with the L and the minimum now. Cool. So we got that now, and we should be getting not a number, right? It can't read it, and so that it would be a classic JavaScript blunder. You say, aha, my logic is sound, everything's cool, and then you get weird things like this showing up. So again, this is why type checking exists. Obviously, I did not choose to use TypeScript for this lecture, but we should have everything basically ready to go now. We just need to actually pass the correct object in from our city list. So let's go ahead back there. That is our entire city.view component. And the problem is, again, that these are just not the actual data that we want. So let's go ahead and get the data that we want. So we're going to go ahead and shrink this back down to nothing, about like that. We shouldn't actually have any errors now because it's not going to try and read it. Because again, this is how JavaScript works. It hasn't come across the problem yet, so it thinks everything's groovy. And so everything's fine, everything's cool. There are no problems here. What are you talking about? And soon enough, we'll find out that there are problems, but we're going to go and fix those now. So const get cities equals async. And this is going to be an arrow function. And we're going to say if local storage. We have not used local storage yet. But a few things about what's going on here. I'm going to say my cities. And there will be an error. Yeah. So local storage. So what this is, and if I hover over it, it won't tell me anything because it wants me to go to the MDN docs. Local storage. How does this work? What's happening here? Web APIs, MDN. So MDN, this is, again, the people who make JavaScript. If you ever need to save something to a local users, like, and you can do things like, it's not recommended to do this, like remembering their username and password. But if they have a token to access your website for authentication, we'll talk about that some other time. But if they log in, then you give them a token saying, hi, my unique token number is blah, 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 blah. And then they use that token, and that's how they access things. And that saves in their local storage so that then it can keep checking, and they don't have to log in to view every single page. It just remembers that they have that token, and that makes it valid for them. The local storage is a really cool tool for remembering things for users, right? So it ends up actually getting saved on their browser. It allows you to access a storage object from the document's origin. And the stored data is saved across browser sessions. So theoretically, if I think we saw this with my other page, with this one, that when I go back to my dashboard, it should, Fairbanks, Alaska, get this here, I can add it, that's great, and go back to my dashboard, and it remembers that, and even if I close this out, and local log back in again, right? And I go to my dashboard, it actually remembers that for me. Even though I've logged out, it's actually keeping track of that for me, which is really nifty, right? Holy cow, low, -38. And whether you're a Celsius person or a Fahrenheit person, that is almost the same, because -40 is where those two meet. But anyways, so this is actually saved in local storage, and kind of kept there, kind of just hanging out. And so that's what we're going to be using. Obviously, there's other problems here. because we're not done yet. But that's what the local storage thing is, and we can use get item to go and say, hey, I stashed something in local storage called my cities. I would like that back. And then we can go and get that back. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say my cities.value, and again, this is that ref thing getting used here, equals json.parse. And again, that's because it gets stored in local storage as some other data type, and we need to actually just parse through that and save that specific thing. And what are we going to parse? We're going to parse the thing we just looked at, storage.getItem, and we're going to find my cities, right? And so now my cities should have some value, and we should be able to actually loop through this stuff. The problem is we haven't actually added anything, so there's not going to be anything here because it's empty, which is fine, because we haven't done anything to add it yet. So, and here's what we're going to be doing again. We're going to be back at it again with our Open Weather Map API. And so let's say const requests equals an empty array, and we're going to say my cities dot value dot for each, and we're going to say city, and we're going to do a callback here, and we're going to do requests dot push, and this is going to basically we're going to get data from the API for each city in our my cities, and go and get all of those, and then we're going to push the axios.get, and we're going to pass in, again, it's the same URL we've been using. I think this was on our dashboard page that we went and got. No, that's the Mapbox one. I didn't want that one. I want the city page, async city, this one. I want this one back. I'll just copy this whole thing here. Go back to our city list and put that there. That should be basically what we need. We might have a little bit of trouble with what we're getting back for each city. And so actually we're going to end up, I think, somewhere else saving. Where is it we do that? Did I write that logic here? Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I might have to spend a little bit of time doing a little dancey dance, figure out where I saved the coordinates. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, so this is actually going to be, instead of this, let's go back to our navbar real quick and just look at this. Because I don't believe we actually finished our navbar logic. We did not. I'm going to have to refresh my page again. We have some work to do on our navbar before we're able to add things to this this entity. So we're actually going to wrap up this video by finishing the navbar, and then we'll go back to our city list and finish that, and we should be very close to done by then. Times it. Cool. Yeah, so we're going to go back to our script setup here in our navbar, and we've imported our modal, and that's all good. So that's all nice. I don't know why this is at a breakpoint. That shouldn't be there. And neat. Cool. So that's where we're at, and we're going to import UID, which is not installed yet, from UID, and that stands for unique ID. And so I'm going to go ahead and npm install UID. That should not take long. It's a very small, nifty little tool. And again, our app is still running here. And so we go back. Great. I can just drop that down. So we've got UID now. We're using our route, and we're using our router. And we're going to make an add city function. And this is going to be kind of where a lot of this logic shows up. So we're going to say const add city. This won't take anything. It's just an arrow function. And we're going to say if, and we're going to check local storage dot get item, and we're going to check for my cities. And if it's already if there's something already in there, I'm going to say my cities dot value equals json dot parse. I'm going to say local storage dot get item, and that needs to be spelled right. And we're going to pass in my cities. So what's going on here is going to check if there's cities saved, and if there are, it's going to load them into a my cities array. And so, which we did not make yet. So actually, we're still going to be, we need to use that ref here. And let's say add city function here, and we're going to do const my cities equals ref, and just an empty array. So that'll be a reactive array here that we're able to use, and that's great. So we'll take that, and once we've checked to see if it's in there, I think this is still inside that if statement. Yep. Or not inside the if statement, but it's inside of the add city function still. I'm going to say const location equals, and we're going to make some stuff here. So our location value is going to be an ID of UID, so it's going to actually generate the unique IDs for how that works. And once we're done with that, we will establish these params in router/index.js. Actually, it's pulling it from the params, so it's going to actually get them from our parameters in our page, right? So whatever page we're on, we're going to be using that router, which we'll see, or that route in a second, and it's going to pull those from the URL. So again, if we're on the Chicago page, then we're just going to pull them from up there. So here we'll say state is going to be route.params.state. City will be route.params.city. And then we're going to have chords, and this is going to be another object here. And this will say we'll have lat is one value, and that's going to be whatever the route.query.lat is, and then long is the route.query.long. And this is going to be really nifty because, again, this is going to be pulling things from up here. We'll get that latitude there and the longitude there. And now it's saved to a location, and we're going to end up pushing that location to our my cities array, right? So once we're through that there, I'm going to say my cities.value, because, again, it's a ref, so we have to use the dot value. I'm going to use dot push the location, and then the local storage dot set item is going to be called my cities, so we're just going to overwrite what's already in there, and then json.stringify my cities dot value. We'll get that, and almost done with this. We've added that to the value there, and so we've pushed the location. All right, next thing we're going to do, I'm going to say let query equals an object. We're going to assign an empty object here, and we're going to keep the query added to that, so the route request. Let's just write that down real quick. This creates an object that includes a route request. So this will actually keep all of our route information in the top of it, and then we're going to remove the preview query param from the URL. So we're going to delete query.preview. We'll just remove that from that object, and then we're going to add ID attribute to our location. So our query.id equals location.id. And then finally, we're going to replace that entire query. Just to, again, this just basically cleans things up and adds that ID to it. So router.replace, and we're going to pass in query. And that should be all of it. Yeah, so now we got all that. And now we should be able to actually add some things to our array. So if we refresh the page, trembling with suspense, we get our data back. Here it is. We can add this now, and that should display it here, although we might have to do a little bit more work on our use city or our city list thing before we're able to do that. Actually, I don't think did I add? Oh, no, I know what I did. We got to actually add this to our button here. So let's go back to our navbar. And we need to actually do our add city button and actually put this in our code. There we go. So if we scroll up with our plus sign, which is this one, after our class, we'll do enter, and right here we'll do add click equals add city, and then we can also add the if route.query. And so this will, this should keep it from adding things if it's not an actual query. So I should be able to go to Chicago here. It's got to think about it. Get the data back and render. And I press this, and now you notice that changed, and we can also remove the city. And if I go to my dashboard, then we should, this might be our last step, but the button's working now, so that's nice. And we might have to do just a little bit of debugging, but we will do that in the next video. This has been a little bit long, so take a little break, and I'll see you in the next one.